Recently, there is a shift in the way the state of Ohio is assisting people with developmental disabilities, including autism. There is a move to provide those adults with employment and creating those opportunities at an earlier age, and it's called Employment First. Joining me with more is Chris Filler. She's the program director for the Lifespan Transition Center at Ocala, and Kristen Helling from the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities and the Employment First program. Ladies, welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Kristen, I want to start with you. This is a year-old program about now that the state has Employment First. How would you describe it? How does it help families?
Well, Employment First is really about outcomes. It's about looking at employment as the first option for people with autism and other developmental disabilities. It's really about helping people with disabilities be able to access their community the way that normal people or typical people also do that. So employment as the first option that we explore when we're thinking about services and planning for people with developmental disabilities, including autism.
But the state has done this before, so they've broadened it and widened it, made it more acceptable for employers to hire these folks?
Right, and we're looking at policy changes at the state level and also at the county board level to help people with autism and developmental disabilities be able to access the services and the supports that they need in order to help them gain community employment. And
Chris, this is really good news for families, as you know, working with those families at Ocala. Children up until 18 are in the school system receiving aid, but after that, it kind of drops off, doesn't it?
Well, it's different services. It changes. You go from an entitlement program in school into adult services where you sometimes even have to wait for services. So it's not the same. But the way that we're looking at changing things, the services will promote and prioritize community employment. And this is a very good thing for individuals with autism and other disabilities. Families can start to think about the fact that we're looking at a good job match here. Individual, you know, a lot of folks on the autism spectrum, they don't necessarily traditionally do well with some of the kinds of jobs that we would look at like in a more segregated setting, or some that we may think about in terms of just putting someone in a janitorial service or something along that line. So we look for a good job match. So individuals on the autism spectrum, they may do well, as you're seeing on the TV, the footage here is showing somebody that really has an interest in cooking and having to really teach them about how to do this and matching up their skills. Some people do very well with numbers and computers and technology.
There are skills they can bring to the workplace that will help the employer.
Yes.
So, Kristen, are we identifying some of these companies, businesses that are willing to look at folks with autism to hire?
Right. It's really about knowledge and education. It's helping employers understand the benefits of hiring people with disabilities. Sometimes people with disabilities, we have statistics that show us that people with disabilities show up to work on time more often than people without disabilities. If they're sick, they get back to work quicker. We have a lot of statistics that show us that hiring people with disabilities can really be beneficial to employers.
They have a great work ethic.
Exactly, because they value their jobs. Their jobs are very important to them. They're ways that they can contribute to their community. They're part of their self-identity, just like they are for anybody else that's working in the community. Our jobs are really how we define ourselves and how we access full participation in the society.
Well, part of this initiative is something called community employment. What does that mean, Kristen?
Community employment really means competitive employment, and so that's making at least minimum wage, and it's integrated employment, and that means that people without disabilities working alongside people with disabilities.
How is this going to be helpful for families? You mentioned planning, Chris. What else will they get out of this? I would think a little bit of relief knowing that there might be something out there that their child can look forward to, that they can look forward to for their child.
Well, certainly, and certainly knowing that they're going to be looking at more individualized planning. And it's going to start earlier in schools now, too. Schools are going to be paying a lot of attention to what is happening after school, developing plans in school that are focused on working in the community after school. Schools are going to be partnering with Department of Education and Rehab Services. They do now, but even more closely and earlier.
These partners are great things, aren't they?
Yes.
Everybody finally working together. How can the community support these efforts, ladies?
Well, one of the things I think that is so important around looking at Employment First is changing expectations. In our community, we want to raise the awareness and raise the expectation of others related to what people with disabilities can do. It's not about what you can't do. It's not about how much support do you need. It's about what I bring to my community. And we want to raise that expectation because it's true.
And communities really do benefit when all people are involved and all people are having an opportunity to earn a living and be able to contribute to society.
You're right. You're very right. Ladies, thank you so much. I'm excited about this program. And to learn more about that and other things, we want to remind you to tune in to the next installment of the NBC special presentation, The Autism Puzzle. It's Wednesday, April 24th, 7 p.m. There will also be opportunities to reach out to those who specialize in services for children and adults with autism. You can call the Call 4 lines. They will be open. So join us tomorrow again at 7 p.m. for The Autism Puzzle.